I tell you this, the people you blame for destroying your home are not the problem at all. They are merely puppets, acting out the hidden beliefs you hold within yourself. If you're the man who arrives home, feeling that familiar wave of dread wash over you before you even open the door, picturing the inevitable argument about finances or the children's schooling, or anticipating the cold silence that hangs heavy in the air after a disagreement, and you find yourself retreating to a separate room just to escape the palpable tension that feels like a physical weight on your chest, whispering, "I can't take this anymore," to an empty room. By the end of this session, you will grasp the radical truth that removes all blame from others and empowers you to transform your home into a sanctuary within 30 days, using the same principles I applied to bring harmony to my own difficult family relations, a method 37 of my students have used to turn their most chaotic households into havens of peace. But here's what most will dismiss: they will continue to blame, to fight, and to suffer, never realizing the immense power they wield to change their domestic reality. In the next 6 minutes, I will show you the exact internal assumption creating your domestic disharmony and the precise technique to rewrite it. Leave now and you will remain a victim to external circumstances, forever locked in a cycle of blame and discord within your own walls. Story-proof stack. I discovered this immutable law through direct experience, guided by my profound teacher, Abdullah. For years, I struggled with a particular family dynamic that caused me immense friction. There was a member of my extended family who, in my estimation, was relentlessly critical, always finding fault, always stirring discontent. Every interaction felt like walking into a storm. I would dread family gatherings, anticipating the passive-aggressive comments, the thinly veiled judgments that felt like daggers to my peace. My chest would tighten, and I would leave these encounters feeling drained and resentful. I blamed this person entirely for the discord, believing their personality was simply incompatible with mine, a force intent on destroying any semblance of harmony. But Abdullah, in his infinite wisdom, simply looked at me one day and said, "Neville, they are only reflecting your own concept of them. You must change the self that attracts such interactions." I argued, I resisted, I insisted they were simply that way. But he was unyielding. He challenged me to, in my imagination, perceive them differently, not just for a moment, but consistently. He instructed me to imagine this family member praising me, speaking kindly, offering support, not in a forced or unnatural way, but as if it were their natural disposition. It felt like a monumental task, a lie I was telling myself, yet I committed. Every night before sleep, I would replay a hypothetical scenario where this individual was warm, loving, and encouraging towards me, feeling the relief and gratitude as if it were true. The change was not immediate, but it was undeniable. Within weeks, the tension began to dissipate, the cutting remarks softened, the critical gaze transformed into something almost benevolent. Soon, this person, who I had previously labeled a destroyer of my peace, became one of my greatest supporters, offering genuine encouragement and kindness. Their entire demeanor towards me shifted, not because I confronted them or changed my external behavior towards them, but because I had revised my inner concept of them. I tell you this, they were merely puppets, acting out the beliefs I held about them within my own mind. Subconscious programming. Your subconscious mind, which is the creative power of God within you, takes every assumption you hold as an absolute command. It does not discern between what is true in the external world and what is true in your imagination. When you constantly hold a concept of a family member as difficult, critical, messy, or disrespectful, your subconscious accepts this as their true nature. And because everyone in your home is you pushed out, their subconscious minds then reflect your assumption. They become the embodiment of your silent, unvoiced judgments and expectations. You are literally programming their behavior through your inner convictions about them. This is the precise way your inner assumptions about your difficult family members are literally programming their destructive behavior. Contrast trap. Most men, when faced with discord at home, will spend their energy trying to control, cajole, or confront their family members, attempting to force external behavior change. They will try to fix the other person, exhausting themselves in a battle against what they perceive as external forces. This always leads to more frustration, more arguments, and a deepening of the very problems they seek to solve. The man who understands this first principle, however, knows that to change the outer world, he must first change his inner world. He understands that trying to manage others' behavior is a futile endeavor, for they are merely reflecting his own inner state. He shifts his focus from demanding external change to cultivating an internal assumption of harmony and love. One command affirmation: affirm aloud now, I assume my home is a haven of peace and every member reflects my deepest love. Let me ask you, have you ever noticed how when you wake up feeling irritable or stressed, your entire day seems to unfold with minor frustrations and conflicts? And conversely, on days you wake with a sense of peace or joy, how smoothly things proceed, almost effortlessly. This is not coincidence, it is the law in action. Story proof stack. Consider the teachings of my friend, Dr. Joseph Murphy, who understood the profound power of the subconscious mind. He often spoke of individuals whose domestic lives were a constant source of stress, particularly concerning financial arguments, a common pain point for many. One particular man, let us call him David, came to Dr. Murphy feeling utterly defeated. His home was a battleground over money. Every bill was a cause for heated exchanges. Every financial decision led to resentment. He felt a constant knot in his stomach, anticipating the next argument, believing his financial struggles were the cause of his domestic disharmony. Dr. Murphy explained that the external financial struggles were not the root cause, but merely symptoms of David's prevailing inner state of consciousness, a state of lack, fear, and worry. He instructed David to begin a practice of consciously cultivating a feeling of financial security and abundance, not just for himself, but for his entire family. David was to imagine his home filled with the feeling of abundance, seeing his family not as adversaries over money, but as collaborators in prosperity, feeling the relief and gratitude of having all their needs met, with plenty to spare. He was to do this daily, steadfastly, regardless of the apparent circumstances. Within weeks, a palpable shift occurred. The arguments over money began to subside. Opportunities arose that eased the financial strain, but more importantly, the atmosphere in the home transformed. The conversations around money changed from accusations to discussions of creative solutions. David realized that his inner state of anxiety had been the true foundation of his home's chaos, and by consciously cultivating a state of peace and abundance, he had rebuilt that foundation into one of harmony. Subconscious programming. The conscious mind is the gardener, planting seeds of thought and feeling into the subconscious soil. Your dominant mood, your pervasive feeling state, is precisely the climate you are cultivating in your home. If you constantly dwell in anxiety, anger, or frustration, these are the conditions your subconscious will externalize through your family. It is always reproducing your inner state. If you constantly feel tension or dread when you think of your home, then tension and dread will be your experience. It must be so, for your inner state is the blueprint. Contrast trap. Most men mistakenly believe that their home's problems are caused by external factors, the children's unruly behavior, their spouse's demanding nature, or the incessant financial pressures. They endlessly chase external solutions, trying to control the uncontrollable, all while their inner state remains a turbulent storm. The man who is truly wise, however, understands that his inner state of consciousness is the true foundation of his home's harmony or chaos. He knows that external conditions are merely reflections, and that by mastering his inner world, he effortlessly brings peace to his outer world. Listen to me. This technique I am about to share is so powerful, so utterly transformative, that most will dismiss it as fantasy. But I tell you, it is the key to escaping the prison of past hurts. Story-proof stack. I recall a time early in my teachings when I was still fully immersed in applying Abdullah's lessons. There was a particular incident within my own family, a sharp disagreement that had left a bitter taste. Words had been exchanged that, in the heat of the moment, felt justified, yet afterwards left a lingering feeling of regret and a palpable tension between myself and another member of my family. The memory of that argument, those hurtful words, played over and over in my mind, each replay reinforcing the discord, making future interactions awkward and strained. It was a weight on my chest, threatening to become a permanent fixture in our relationship. I recognized this pattern as a subtle mental habit, one that was actively reinforcing the chaos in my home. I knew I had to apply the principle of revision. Instead of dwelling on the actual event, I would, before falling asleep each night, replay the scene in my imagination. But in my revised version, the words were never spoken. The argument never occurred. Instead, I would imagine a harmonious discussion filled with understanding and respect. I would feel the warmth of agreement, the lightness of peace, the sensation of our genuine connection. I meticulously recreated the scene, changing every detail to reflect the ideal outcome, immersing myself in the feeling of reconciliation and mutual respect. I did this for several nights, and the miraculous occurred. Without a single word spoken to the other person about the revision, the atmosphere shifted. The strained silence was replaced by easy conversation. The subtle tension evaporated. It was as if the original argument had simply faded from collective memory, replaced by the harmonious impression I had imprinted. This is how I revised a deeply entrenched family conflict and witnessed an immediate, undeniable shift in everyone involved. Subconscious programming. The subconscious mind is not merely a recorder of events, it is an active creator. When you revise a past event, you are not simply pretending it never happened. You are literally wiping the old impression from the subconscious and replacing it with a new one. This new impression becomes the blueprint for future interactions. Every time you revise, you are literally changing your past, and by changing your past, you fundamentally alter the trajectory of your future. It disarms the memory of discord, removing its power to perpetuate conflict in the present. Contrast trap. Most men remain trapped by their past, constantly replaying negative experiences, allowing old hurts and grievances to dictate their present and future interactions. They cling to the facts of what happened, believing they are victims of circumstance, perpetuating an endless cycle of blame and regret. The man who truly seeks liberation, however, embraces revision. He understands that the past is not fixed, it is malleable. He seizes the divine power to rewrite his story, knowing that by transforming his past, he transforms his entire domestic reality. 2. Declaration affirmation. Repeat daily. I am the conscious architect of my domestic reality, revising every perceived discord into harmony. The notion that your home's problems are caused by external factors, money, personalities, habits, is a fundamental misunderstanding of reality. You are the cause, your mental diet is the climate. Story-proof stack. My contemporary, Emmett Fox, a brilliant thinker, articulated the absolute necessity of a disciplined mind. He would often speak of the importance of holding to a vision, regardless of outward appearances. I had a student, a man burdened by constant frustration regarding his teenage son. This boy in his father's eyes was lazy, disrespectful, and constantly messy, leaving chaos in his wake. The father's mental diet was a constant stream of complaints about his son's habits. He never listens. He's so irresponsible. This house is always a pigsty because of him. Every time he saw a misplaced item or heard a dismissive tone, these thoughts would flood his mind, reinforcing his perception. His home felt like a perpetual battlefield, and he felt powerless. I explained to him that he was feeding the very beast he wished to conquer. His sustained mental diet of criticism and negativity was the subtle mental habit he was doing every single day that was actively reinforcing the chaos in his home. I instructed him to adopt a new mental diet. Every time the thought of his son's messiness or disrespect arose, he was to immediately counteract it. He was to tell himself, "My son is organized and considerate. My son respects me and his home. My son is a joy to have around." He wasn't to say this once and forget it, but to sustain this mental diet, constantly redirecting his thoughts, regardless of what his eyes saw or his ears heard. He was to persist in this, not in a forced way, but with the conviction that this was the truth. Within a few short weeks, the complaints ceased. The father reported that he was no longer noticing the mess, or if he did, it no longer bothered him. Unremarkably, his son began to contribute more, to clean up after himself, and to engage with a new level of respect and cooperation. The son did not change because of external pressure, but because his father's inner assumption, his mental diet, had been fundamentally altered. The entire domestic atmosphere shifted from friction to harmony. Subconscious programming. Your mind is a fertile garden. Every thought, every feeling, every assumption is a seed. A mental diet is simply the conscious act of choosing which seeds you allow to take root. If you constantly feed your mind with thoughts of frustration, blame, and discord regarding your family, your subconscious will unfailingly produce a harvest of those very experiences. It is not about managing their behavior, for their behavior is merely a reflection. It is about managing your own thoughts and feelings about them. This consistent inner discipline is the only true pathway to lasting peace. Contrast trap. Most men are consumed by the futility of managing others' behavior. They create chore charts, implement reward systems, engage in endless arguments, believing that external control is the answer. They exhaust themselves fighting shadows. The man who truly understands, however, knows that true peace emanates from within. He cultivates a disciplined mental diet, knowing that his inner thoughts and feelings about his family are the only levers of change. He understands that lasting peace is not the result of external manipulation, but of internal mastery. 3. Process affirmation. Say this with me. My consistent inner vision creates a home filled with love, understanding, and effortless cooperation. Remember, I promised to reveal how your inner emptions about your difficult family members are literally programming their destructive behavior, and how I revised a deeply entrenched family conflict. We are now delving deeper into that profound truth. Story proof stack. My good friend, Thomas Troward, the great Edinburgh lecturesman, understood that consciousness is the originating substance of all reality. He taught that the outer world is always reflecting the inner. I recall a student of mine, a man who felt perpetually disrespected and undervalued in his own home. His wife would dismiss his opinions, his children would disregard his rules, and his in-laws would make passive-aggressive comments that stung him deeply. He saw them as the destroyers of his self-esteem, constantly undermining him. But I challenged him. I asked him to look inward. Where within yourself do you feel undervalued? Where do you disrespect your own opinions? He initially resisted, insisting it was their fault. Yet, with persistent introspection, he began to realize a subtle, underlying belief within himself. A deep-seated feeling of not being quite good enough, a tendency to undervalue his own contributions, to quietly resent himself when he failed to assert his boundaries. His family, those destroyers, were merely externalizing this unaddressed aspect of his own self-concept. I instructed him to begin affirming his own inherent worth, to imagine himself speaking with authority and confidence and feeling deeply respected by his family, to catch himself whenever he doubted his own value and immediately replace that thought with one of self-affirmation. As he began to genuinely embody a feeling of self-respect and self-worth, the mirror of his family shifted. His wife began to seek his counsel, his children showed newfound deference, and the comments from his in-laws, if they even occurred, no longer held power over him. The destroyers had vanished, for they were never truly external villains, but merely reflections of a fragmented aspect of his own being. Subconscious programming. Your deepest, often hidden, beliefs about yourself are continuously projected onto the screen of your life. If you harbor a subtle feeling of unworthiness, of being taken for granted, or of not being quite enough, your subconscious, in its infinite wisdom, will arrange for those around you to reflect that back to you. Your family members become actors in the play of your self-concept. They cannot help but play their roles as long as you hold the script for them in your own mind. It is not malice on their part, but the unerring operation of the law. Contrast trap. Most men remain trapped in a cycle of blame, forever pointing the finger at the other for their suffering, constantly battling external symptoms while the root cause within them goes unaddressed. They exhaust themselves trying to change others' perceptions of them, rather than cultivating a robust self-concept. The truly empowered man, however, recognizes that his destroyers are his greatest teachers. He looks inward, understands that every external challenge is an invitation to refine his own self-concept, and in doing so, transforms his entire world. In the next 3 minutes, I will show you the direct mechanism, the undeniable link between your inner beliefs and their outer actions. This is the culmination of what I promised to show you at the outset. Story-proof stack. Consider the words of Florence Scovel Shinn, who taught with such clarity about the power of the spoken and unspoken word. She understood that every thought held in consciousness is a command. I had a student, a young mother, who was at her wit's end with her mischievous young daughter. This child, by the mother's constant internal description, was a handful, defiant, and always causing trouble. The mother would recount endless stories of the child's misbehavior, constantly reinforcing her assumption. She truly believed her daughter was inherently difficult. This mental habit, this constant narration, was the subtle mental habit she was doing every single day that was actively reinforcing the chaos in her home. I explained to her that she was not merely observing her daughter's behavior. She was actively creating it through her unwavering assumptions. Her child's mind, far more receptive and less conditioned than an adult's, was merely acting out the script her mother was holding for her. I instructed the mother to completely reverse her internal narrative, to imagine her daughter as cooperative, loving, and a joy to be around, to see her playing happily, listening attentively, and radiating sweetness. She was to hold this vision, this new assumption, steadfastly, regardless of any temporary outward display from the child. Within a remarkably short time, the daughter's behavior began to transform. The tantrums diminished, the defiance faded, and she became the joyful, cooperative child her mother had begun to envision. The mother realized that her previous assumptions had been a powerful, albeit unconscious, form of programming. She had inadvertently been commanding the very behavior that caused her distress. Subconscious programming. The subconscious mind of another person is directly influenced by your unwavering concept of them. It is not an independent entity operating in a vacuum when it comes to your relationship with them. When you hold a strong, sustained assumption about a person, positive or negative, their subconscious mind, being part of the universal subconscious, will inevitably receive and act upon that impression. You are quite literally implanting instructions into their being through the power of your imagination. You are not changing them as much as you are changing the blueprint for their behavior towards you or in your presence. This is the precise way your inner assumptions about your difficult family members are literally programming their destructive behavior. Contrast trap. Most men approach family dynamics as if each person is an entirely separate, independent will, whose actions are beyond their influence. They try to apply external logic, rewards, or punishments, only to find themselves continuously frustrated. The man who truly grasps this principle understands that in the realm of consciousness, there is only one mind. He recognizes that his inner conviction is a powerful, undeniable force that shapes the actions of those around him, especially those closest to him. He stops trying to control others and starts consciously controlling his own assumptions about them. Here's exactly how you will apply these truths to experience a profound shift. I want you to focus on one specific challenging person in your home. It might be your spouse, a child, a parent, or an in-law. Choose the individual whose behavior currently causes you the most distress. 1. Identify the specific desired shift. Be absolutely clear. Do you want them to be more considerate, more appreciative, less critical, more engaged, less prone to arguments? Pinpoint one specific, observable behavior or feeling you desire from them. 2. Create a vivid imaginal scene. Construct a brief, living scene in your imagination that implies this desired behavior is already a fact. Picture yourself interacting with this person. Hear them saying the kind words you wish to hear. Feel the warmth of their appreciation. See them performing the considerate act you desire. Make it as real, as vivid, as sensory as possible. For instance, if you wish for less argument about finances, imagine them saying, "Darling, I'm so grateful for how wisely you manage our money." Or if a child is messy, Imagine seeing their room tidy and feeling a surge of pride and peace. 3. Enter the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This is the most crucial step. As you engage in your imaginal scene, you must feel the relief, the gratitude, the joy, the peace that would be yours if this were already true. Dwell in that feeling until it saturates you, until it feels natural. 4. Daily practice and revision. Perform this imaginal act every night before sleep, and ideally, for a few minutes during the day. If a negative thought or memory about this person arises, immediately revise it using the technique I shared. Change the dialogue, change the outcome in your mind. Do not waver. Maintain this mental diet. By committing to this ritual, you will witness a noticeable and undeniable shift in the behavior of one specific challenging person in your home within 14 days, leading to a palpable sense of peace, or precisely identifying the core self-concept assumption that prevents your home from becoming the sanctuary you desire. We have meticulously dismantled the lies that held you captive. The belief that other people in your home have free will to destroy your peace is an illusion that keeps you powerless. You now understand they are but reflections of your inner state, and you hold the power to change the reflection. You cannot change or control anyone else's behavior, only your own inner concept of them. This truth has revealed that by changing your inner concept, their outer behavior must conform. The notion that your home's problems are caused by external factors, money, personalities, habits, is a fundamental misunderstanding of reality. You now know that your inner state, your assumptions, and your mental diet are the true causes, and thus, the true solutions. We have illuminated every mystery. The precise way your inner assumptions about your difficult family members are literally programming their destructive behavior has been unveiled as the direct influence of your sustained concept upon their subconscious. How I revised a deeply entrenched family conflict and witnessed an immediate, undeniable shift in everyone involved was demonstrated through my own experience, proving the power of imaginal revision to erase discord. The subtle mental habit you're doing every single day that is actively reinforcing the chaos in your home has been revealed as your constant, unconscious mental diet of negative thoughts and reactions towards your family, which you now have the power to consciously change. The truth has been laid bare. You stand at a precipice. Will you continue to blame, to fight, and to suffer, remaining a victim to external circumstances and the chaos they bring? Or will you seize your divine power, assume responsibility for your inner world, and cultivate peace and joy in the sanctuary of your own making? The choice is always yours. Play this again. Return to these truths daily. Immerse yourself until this becomes your unwavering conviction, and your home, inevitably, transforms into the sanctuary you truly desire.